up, YouTube? So 2016 is finally over, thank God. And as I always do with the passing of each year, it's time to look back through this massive pile of shit and find some gold that was dropped somewhere in here. So as I have said on multiple occasions, I was let down by almost every major blockbuster I viewed this year, with the exception of about 5 or 6. However, when it came to both the independent films and the films released near the end of the year, around award season, this year came to play. So looking back, while it is a disappointing year, there was a lot more good than came out of it than I previously let on. And these 10 films were the best of the best, in my humble opinion. So let's get to it. Here are my top 10 favorite films of 2016. But of course, before we get to it, here are some honorable mentions. Now let's get ready to rumble. So kicking off this list is one of those few gems that made it out of the summer of 2016, and that would be The Nice Guys. Shane Black returned to direct this modern take on the noir genre that teamed up Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe as a drunken detective and a violent enforcer in a 70s LA setting to investigate the mystery of a Justice Department official's daughter who goes missing. Shane Black brings his trademark sense of comedic writing and heavy action to this film, making it something truly special that unfortunately no one saw, which really sucks. Gosling and Crowe were fantastic together, both giving some of the best performances of the year. They bounced off of each other so well that they are going down in history as one of the best buddy cop duos of all time. And let's not forget about the breakout performance of the year, that of course being Angourie Rice's performance as Gosling's daughter. It is one of my favorite comedies of the year. It's definitely one of the best action comedies I've seen in a while, and it was nice to get something that felt so fresh and original in a year that was really so chock full of terrible, mediocre sequels, which is why The Nice Guys makes my number 10 spot. Coming in at number 9 is most definitely the most controversial entry on this list, considering the fact that when I saw this movie, I was probably the only person who came out of the theater who actually enjoyed it, and that would be Martin Scorsese's next entry, Silence. This was such a radical change from just about everything else the director has done in his 4-decade career, and it was so shocking to me, some of the material that he covered, that I was really actually able to find myself more and more intrigued as this film went on. This film sees Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver portraying Jesuit priests in the 16th century in Portugal who travel to Japan to find their mentor, played by Liam Neeson, who is denying the faith, as well as to secretly spread Christianity. This film was a hard film to watch and an even harder film to digest afterwards, considering both the film's length and the massive amount of subject material there was to digest. But once I got through, I really found that I was thinking about it a lot more than I thought I would. Andrew Garfield easily gives the best performance of his career, which is especially fantastic considering that he already gave another outstanding performance this year in Hacksaw Ridge. But if I had to put money on which role he'll get an Oscar nomination for, it'll be this. Adam Driver was also fantastic, considering the amount of weight I'm sure he had to lose for the role. And while Liam Neeson was good, my only problem there was the fact that he was very underused. But the thing that stuck out to me the most was how Scorsese was able to incorporate those egregiously long torture sequences and managed to make them necessary for the story in order to make the audience aware of how devoted Garfield's character, Father Rodriguez, was to his faith. It was a new spin from a director that has arguably been one of the best the world of cinema has ever seen, and he was able to finally bring this almost 30-year passion project to the big screen, and it shows in every frame, which is why Silence makes my number 9 spot. Coming in at number 8 is another independent film that was released near the end of the summer, and one that ultimately ended up saving the summer for me, and that would be Hell or High Water. Directed by David Mackenzie and written by Taylor Sheridan, this neo-western sees Chris Pine and Ben Foster playing bank-robbing brothers with the intent of keeping their land by paying back the bank that has trapped them in a reverse mortgage due to the recent passing of their mother. They are also being closely pursued by two Texas Rangers, played by Jeff Bridges and Gil Birmingham. This film was one that shocked me, not just by presenting a new take on the Western genre, a genre that has arguably been dead for the better part of 20 years, but by also being a shockingly accurate representation of the times. It was able to dive headfirst into the action with the first shot, and it only enhanced the story as the exploration of the relationship between these two brothers is what ends up being the driving force of the film, more so than anything else. You've got another set of superb performances, with Jeff Bridges and Ben Foster both stealing every scene they're in. Jeff Bridges is definitely going to get the Oscar nomination though, even though I thought Ben Foster was better, but I'm not going to knock Chris Pine either, because he gives such a leveled out, grounded performance that it brings a balance that helps make this film even better than it already is, which is why Hell or High Water makes my number 8 spot. Coming in at number 7 is a film that really began my long investment into the independent films of 2016. This was a film that truly made me realize what it is I love about movies, music, and life, and that would be Sing Street. A tiny Irish film that's set in 1985, directed by John Carney, the guy who did Once and Begin Again. Sing Street tells the story of a teenager named Connor, who moves to a new school, and after wanting to impress a girl he sees standing across the street, he proceeds to do what any kid in this situation would do and form a band. This film was so endearing, had so much heart, and the fact that it was able to be both a coming-of-age movie, a musical, and a piece of art simultaneously was great. Considering the fact that so many films now, especially awards contenders, are really depressing, it was nice to see a film that really made me fist pump at the end of it. The performances from everyone in this film were great, and it's made even better by the fact that aside from only 2 actors in the film, that being Jack Rayner from Transformers Age of Extinction and Aidan Gillen, or Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, I knew none of these guys. And honestly, it helped make the film even better because I wasn't distracted by seeing any famous faces or people. Props also to Jack Rayner because he was the best actor in the film, such a great motivating force for the main character. Their relationship is great, and it really helped to drive the film and establish what it was. Drive. Puns. Oh, they're great. But that brings me to the next point of the music. So here's what I loved about this music and why it stuck out to me more so than the music in La La Land. Because the music in this movie was used to help tell the story and fill in the audience as to what this kid was thinking, how he saw his life, and the ways that he was using music to change it, versus La La Land, which just felt like a play. Also, Drive It Like You Stole It. If that does not get nominated for Best Original Song, I'm going to be really pissed. I love this movie. It's such a shame that this didn't get a wide release, but it's on Netflix now, so none of you have an excuse to not watch it. Go out and watch this movie. It's my number 7. It's Sing Street. Coming in at number 6 is another film that is going to certainly get a lot of awards buzz. However, I'm surprised to see that it's not on as many people's top 10 lists, and that would be Jackie. This biopic, directed by Chilean director Pablo Larraín and produced by Darren Aronofsky, follows Jackie Kennedy, played to perfection by Natalie Portman, and her recounting of the events of what happened during and after JFK's assassination. After I came out of this film, there was really only one word I used to describe it. Haunting. Not in the sense of like a supernatural, but just a tone that made you really feel haunting. I can't think of another word to describe it. And I've seen movies that are moved entirely by one performance before, but holy shit does Natalie Portman come to play in this film. She hasn't really done an Oscar movie since Black Swan, but I'm calling it right now, she is going to win her next Oscar for this film. This wasn't a performance in terms of she was playing Jackie Kennedy really well, this was a performance in terms of she became Jackie Kennedy. The accent, the movements, the facial expressions, the reactions to her life falling apart around her. It was a different level of acting and one that I almost forgot she was capable of, mostly because she's really been sticking to blockbusters for the last couple of years. Not to mention that the setting around her looked so gorgeous. Pablo Larraín's eye for camera angles was great, and the set and costume design was probably the best I've seen all year. Not to mention that the history behind it was so interesting to behold, especially because this was something that I've watched in school and I've heard it from my family, and I've seen like black and white clippings, but I could barely make it out, but to see it on the big screen was incredible. This was an awards film that I enjoyed a hell of a lot more than I thought I would, with another out-of-this-world performance from Portman, which is why Jackie makes my number 6 spot. Coming in at number 5 is a film that intrigued me primarily because it had a form of storytelling that I have really never seen before, and that would be Nocturnal Animals. In our second film of the year, Amy Adams portrays Susan, an art dealer who receives a manuscript from her ex-husband, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. As she's reading, though, we see the novel storyline play out in real life, and we end up following these two completely separate storylines that at first seem like they really have nothing to do with each other. The fictional novel manuscript is a story about a father, also played by Gyllenhaal, whose family is kidnapped and terrorized by rednecks led by a chameleon like Aaron Taylor Johnson, who teams up with Michael Shannon's aging Texas Ranger to extract revenge. As Adams is reading the script, however, she also finds herself flashing back and forth between the present and the past, revealing her previous relationship with her ex-husband and what she ended up doing to him that caused their separation. It's the way that these two seemingly unrelated stories are actually able to be so similar that makes the narrative so compelling, and is only helped along by the 4 standout performances. In terms of Oscars, I can certainly tell that this movie will get a director and a screenplay nod for Tom Ford, as well as a supporting actor nod for either Michael Shannon or Aaron Taylor Johnson. My money's on Taylor Johnson though. It's one of the most intriguing films I've seen all year, and it makes its spot here at my number 5, that's Nocturnal Animals. Coming in at number 4 is hands down the most depressing film I've seen all year, but as I'm sure you all know, a film has to have a certain level of depressing subject matter in order for it to be considered for an Oscar, and that would be Manchester by the Sea. Written and directed by Kenneth Lonergan, the film sees Casey Affleck portraying Lee Chandler, a janitor working in Boston. I'm not really sure why he's called a janitor though, unless that's some sort of Boston slang for a plumber. He soon receives word, however, that his brother Joe, played by Kyle Chandler, ironically enough, has died of a heart attack, and that he has been made the sole guardian of his 15-year-old nephew, Patrick, played by Lucas Hedges. Because of this, he returns to his home, Manchester by the Sea, which forces him to confront the reason for why he left, as well as some serious demons he's carrying around with him. While this film wasn't the solo character piece that I thought it was going to be, Casey Affleck still knocked it out of the park in terms of just giving the best performance of his career, and he's another one that I'm calling right now is going to win the Best Actor Oscar. But I also have to say, Lucas Hedges was no slouch in this film either. He was able to match Affleck beat for beat, both energy and acting-wise. The back and forth between the two of them was some of my favorite all year, but what impressed me the most is that he was really the source of levity in ultimately a very dour and depressing film. At first, he's just a kid mourning his dad, but as the film goes on and you find out the overwhelming sadness that Affleck has to deal with because of a tragic event that happened to him earlier in his life, Hedges ends up bringing some much needed levity, both with the different girls that he's sleeping with, but also just the humorous back and forth he has with his uncle, whom he used to have this great relationship with that has just deteriorated over the years. Just as well, the supporting cast consisting of Kyle Chandler and Michelle Williams was great. Michelle Williams is going to get nominated as well. I really want Lucas Hedges to be nominated, but I have a bad feeling he's going to be edged out because of his age, just because the supporting category is stacked this year. For a film that is so sad and depressing, there's still a lot of warmth and endearment that you can get from it, which just goes to show that sometimes, quoting Harry Potter here, light can still be found even in the darkest of times, which is why Manchester by the Sea makes my number 4 spot. Coming in at number 3 is a film that I saw just last night, and it was the final film I saw for the year of 2016, and that would be 20th Century Women. This film, which is both directed and written by Mike Mills, sees a kid named Jamie being raised by an aging single mother in 1979, played by Annette Bening, who recruits the help of 2 other women, a young photographer who's renting the room upstairs named Abby, played by Greta Gerwig, and a rebellious teenager whom Jamie has a crush on named Julie, played by Elle Fanning, to help show Jamie that there's more to life than what he sees on the surface. Also along for the ride is William, played by Billy Crudup, a repairman with a love of pottery who ends up being a very much more important member of the ensemble. With his first film, Beginners, which starred Christopher Plummer as a man in his 70s who comes out as being gay for the first time to his family, Mike Mills was attempting to tell the story of his father. However, here he takes the opposite end of that spectrum by telling the story of his mother with the form of another fictional character, and he does it in such a great, loose, and heartwarming way that you can't help but fall in love with this movie. One of the few movies I've seen this year that actually made me smile after it. This film is so well made, so well written, and hands down has one of the best ensemble casts I've seen all year. Annette Bening is great. She does deserve to win the Oscar for this, even though she's going up against Natalie Portman again, but this film was another one that truly thrived on all of its working parts put together. It was the story of this aging, free-spirited single mother who is attempting to stay connected to her son, but also allowing him to grow in a way that benefits him. But it's also the story of a 25-year-old photographer with cervical cancer, a 17-year-old teen who seems like the stereotypical rebel on the outside but really just wants to be loved, and the story of a 35-year-old repairman with a love of pottery who's still trying to find his way in life. All of these different factors end up influencing this kid, who in any other ensemble would have just been the glue that holds them together, but the way that he's written allows him to be so much of more of a character. This film really made me appreciate both life and family, which is something that a lot of films really haven't done this year. It was a great story with some of the best performances, a really heartwarming piece about family, and just a really good look at life that I didn't know I needed. A great feel-good film. 20th Century Women makes my number 3 spot. Coming in at number 2 is a film that I thought for sure was going to be a one-and-done independent film, until I actually saw it, and then more people saw it. And then ended up getting some serious critical acclaim, and that would be Moonlight. In this beautiful piece of art, first-time writer-director Barry Jenkins tells the story of Chiron, a black man living in Miami during the drug trade who's attempting to find his place in the world, as well as come to terms with his own sexuality. He tells the story over 3 different periods of his life, as a little kid, as a teenager, and as an adult. This was a film that shocked me to my core on so many different levels. The fact that Jenkins was able to have a main character played by 3 different actors, that being Alex R. Hibbert, Ashton Sanders, and Trevante Rhodes, who all knocked it out of the park and still managed to have such a gut-wrenchingly emotional and cohesive movie. Also, can't forget about Mahershala Ali and Naomi Harris, who are easily the best they've ever been in this movie. Mahershala has been killing it this year between this, House of Cards, and Luke Cage, and the fact that he's able to turn this drug dealer in Miami into such a sympathetic role model character. It really just goes to show what a talent he is. Not to mention, Naomi Harris gives one of the best performances of the year as his drug addict mother. It's just haunting. These two are locks for sure for the best supporting actor category. But besides that, the fact that this film, when you think about it, it's 3 different films that are all tied together with Barry Jenkins' Supreme-style directing and one of the strongest scripts of the year. The story of Chiron is both one story and 3 stories. The story of Little, Chiron, and Black. 3 different people over 3 different time periods who are all tied together by the fact that they are one person. This was such a great film on so many different levels, words can barely describe it. If it weren't for La La Land, I'd say this was for sure going to win Best Picture. It's one of the best films of the year. It's one of the best films I've seen this decade, and if not for my number 1 pick being so shocking, it would be there. But alas, Moonlight only makes my number 2 spot. And we've made it, the final chapter, the final note to end the best of the year. And I'm sure that all of you are wondering what could possibly be so great as to beat out Moonlight for this spot. Well, as I've already made it abundantly clear, I have a very strange criteria when it comes to my favorite films of the year, which is why my number 1 film of the year is none other than Swiss Army Man. You want to talk about originality? Check. Great acting? Check. A premise that is so bizarre and strange that it makes you think long and hard about life in general? Check, check, and check. This was such a bizarre premise that I didn't go see this film in theaters when I first saw it, but it got such good word of mouth that I finally saw it and I was floored. So in this film, Paul Dano plays Hank, a man stranded on a desert island who's about to hang himself when he sees something wash up on the beach. He goes to investigate it and finds a corpse. More specifically, a corpse played by Daniel Radcliffe that farts a lot. However, after using said farting corpse to surf his way back to the mainland, Hank soon learns that this corpse is capable of a lot more things than just farting, namely being able to talk. The corpse, whose name is Manny, reveals that he has a whole host of other supernatural abilities, including being able to regurgitate water, use his boner as a compass, swing his limbs hard enough to chop wood, and etc. As the 2 of them are making their way through the woods, however, they have conversations, simple conversations about life that end up being a whole lot more meaningful than they appear on the surface. So much so that the movie that was known as the Farting Corpse movie ended up being one of the most brilliantly written, smart, and overall funny, not to mention heartwarming films, not just of 2016, but of this whole decade so far. The interaction between these two was great. They had amazing chemistry. Paul Dano kills it, of course. He always does. But for me, the standout was, of course, Harry Potter himself, Daniel Radcliffe. Daniel Radcliffe is a guy who I follow my entire childhood in his movie journey as J.K. Rowling's biggest money-making character, and he could have just been done after these movies. He could have just gone back to London and done random stage plays and just relaxed on his big pile of money. But the fact that he's willing to continue to pursue acting and pick these weird projects, and to not just show up and be himself, but to excel and show that he is a genuinely great actor. He literally has to play a corpse that lays there and talks and does random things, and it's just so bizarre, but it's my favorite performance of the year. One of the most bizarre premises that ended up being one of the most endearing, heartwarming, and funny tales of friendship I've seen in years. It was everything I wanted from a film in terms of originality, creativity, and joy, and it is ultimately a film that helped redeem 2016's film run, which is why Swiss Army Man makes my number 1 spot. Alright, that's it. Those are my top 10 favorite movies of 2016. It was a long year with a lot of crap, but we made it. It's finally over. I'm still going to do my worst of the year, and like this list, there's going to be a lot of entries on there that people will not expect, but that's okay, because guess what? It is my list. So what did you guys think of this list overall? I am done with 2016. I'm so glad this year is over. Thank you guys for being awesome fans. I can't wait to dive deep into the movie season of 2017. So leave a comment below what you want to see going forward. Click that like button, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at Movie Nerd Review. Go to my website, movienerdreviews.com, and of course be sure to check out my brand new YouTube channel, Movie Nerd TV, as well as the Movie Nerd Podcast located right on this channel. Thanks you guys so much. I will see you guys next time.